Hey guys, it's Jessica.
And this is Kendra, and you're listening to
Lucid Lab.
We are back for part 2. It's been a while since we've had a 2-parter. Get ready, but before we get into all of the nitty-gritty details around Chris Watts, I think, Jessica, you have an update around a case you did.
I do. It was from our lab reports when I was covering the funeral homes.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a huge update, but from Davis Mortuary, which was just found out a couple weeks ago in Pueblo, they did confirm it's 24 bodies. So thankfully not 200.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, 24 is a lot.
24 is still a lot. They did find containers, and that's all they're calling them right now, containers of tissue and bones. So it may be more than that.
Ooh.
What was really sad is there was a woman who was interviewed the very first day by one of the reporters down there when he was like trying to get the scoop on what was going on. And she was just really upset and saying, you know, it was my responsibility to care for my husband. And is he one of these people? And sure enough, this Monday, they called her and one of the bodies was her husband.
Aww.
Her name's Patty Emerson and her husband's name was Mel. He died of cancer in 2011.
Oh my goodness.
That's how long his body
years.
has been in that room.
That's fucked.
They gave her something else. One of the owners did admit to, well, maybe we gave people fake ashes. No one's been arrested yet. No charges have been filed yet. I don't know what's taking them so long to do it. Brian Cotter did step down from his position.
Okay.
Only 4 so far have been identified, so there's still some work to do. But her story just really hurts me because she's like, literally the last thing he said to me was, thank you so much for trusting me in this final act. And he's put her husband in a room. And he has been there for 14 years.
How do you live with yourself?
The only other thing that I found interesting, and the reporter just kind of mentioned it, was that Davis Mortuary shares the building with Freemasons.
Okay.
And so he made some kind of nod to maybe there's a weird connection there. So I'll just leave that there.
I don't even want to think about it right now.
And then I was on YouTube and this other girl was talking about yet another funeral home in Colorado. And I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Colorado, get it together.
I know, but I went and searched it up. That's why you check your sources because it's not recent. She made it sound like it had just happened, but it was from 2024. And it was a young man named Miles Harford. He's 33. He worked for Apollo Funeral and Cremation Services in Littleton. What happened was he was renting a house and he was being evicted.
Okay.
Don't know the reason there, obviously not doing very well. But part of the eviction, there was some kind of search, or maybe they were throwing his shit out. I don't know. But there was a hearse on the property. And inside the hearse was a woman's body.
What the fuck?
She had been in that hearse for at least 2 years.
Ew.
They searched everything else. He had like a U-Haul outside. There was a lot going on, but they found the cremated remains of at least 30 people.
Oh my God.
I didn't hear anything about the actual funeral home or if he was just a really weird dude doing black market shit. I don't know. We don't know with this stuff, you know? He was arrested and he did plead guilty. His sentencing was supposed to happen in June of this year, but I could not find anything. So either it wasn't reported on in any way or it was like delayed because that happens, you know?
Yeah.
But I think the moral of the story here for Colorado is...
don't die here.
Well, that. But now that they do have the rules in place, you're supposed to have a license.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing with Davis. The only reason they found out about that is because Dora started making it mandatory for inspections, and that just started.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to hear some more shit. And or every funeral home in Colorado is scrambling to get their shit together.
Yeah.
Because they thought that they were never going to be inspected. The fact that it is 2025 and funeral homes are not inspected.
That's wild.
It's crazy.
Just inept
like
on
every
Colorado's part.
Funeral home needs to be checked in Colorado right now.
Yes.
And if you have a loved one who died here and you went through a home, maybe request that there's an inspection done. Because you don't know. Maybe what you received isn't your family member. And it's just really shitty. So
really shitty.
Updates to come, I guess.
Well, thank you. I guess. Well, I don't have much updates to provide. It hasn't been that long since we recorded last.
Nope.
We're just getting into part 2.
We don't know if this is going to go over 3. And as a reminder for anyone new, you cannot post videos longer than 3 hours. So our people who listen to us loyally through YouTube, it wouldn't go over to them. So we kind of have to make it 2 parts.
Absolutely. And it's worth it. There's a lot to the story, as we said in the first part. And I'll just remind everyone where we ended was Shanann had just gotten back from her trip to Phoenix and entered her house at like 1:48 in the morning. Her friend and coworker, Nicole Atkinson, was actually the one who had dropped her off. And then she's never seen again. That brings us back into the story. And no one will ever know exactly what happened after Shanann entered her home in those early morning hours of August 13th. I'm going to talk first about how the investigation went down, what happened as far as the missing persons and all of that, and all of the interviews with Chris Watts and his side piece, Nikki. And then we will go into the exact play-by-play of what Chris eventually confesses to, which is probably what happened that night. We'll find that Chris changes his story at least 3 times, but I think the final account that I found in all of my sources is probably accurate because it's horrible to listen to.
Okay.
So Shanann goes in the house. We're going to fast forward now. It is around 8 a.m. on August 13th.
Which is only
a few hours, like 6 hours after she
later.
entered the house. Now, she had a scheduled doctor's appointment. Remember, she's 15 weeks pregnant. And Nicole had dropped her off and was just worried about her because Shanann had been stressed all weekend with her friends. And remember, even though they're coworkers, they're also really good friends. And she had been confiding in all of them that her and Chris were having marital problems. Right. She was about to move out. She thought they were going to be getting divorced. She had not been eating well. They were worried about how she had been. So Nicole reaches out early in the morning and just says, hey, I know we got in late. How are you doing? How are you feeling? Would you like me to take you to your doctor's appointment? Just let me know how I can help. Just being a good friend.
Right.
She doesn't hear back.
Which is probably unusual.
Very unusual. Shanann is on it. She's up early. This is also the first day of kindergarten for Bella.
So then she would be up.
Now, Shanann would be up getting them ready. Shanann was not going to take them to school. Chris was, because Shanann had this doctor's appointment.
Okay.
So that was the whole plan for the morning. And Nicole knows this because they had just been together and talked about it when she dropped her off at 2 a.m. in the morning. Now, Nicole keeps texting and she begins growing concerned because Shanann hasn't texted her back. She's worried she missed that appointment. She knew she wasn't feeling well. So she's just, texting, are you okay? Just let me know. She doesn't hear anything. Nicole actually calls Chris Watts to see if he had seen Shanann that morning. And he tells her at that point that they had gotten into some kind of fight last night and that Shanann had taken off with the 2 girls to stay with a friend. But he kept it very vague. And Nicole thought it was weird.
Yeah.
Chris kind of just rushes her off the phone.
Okay.
So then it's 12 p.m. And she still hasn't heard back from Shanann. And she's like, even if Shanann went to a friend's house, she would text me back.
Right.
So she goes to the Watts home. She peeks in the garage window and she sees that Shanann's car, her white Lexus, is sitting in the garage. That doesn't add up. Chris said she left with the girls. How did she leave?
Right.
Then she rings the doorbell and it's on Ring doorbell and it pops up and Chris sees that she's there. And he calls her back and he's like, why are you at the house? And she's like, why is Shanann's car in the garage if Shanann left? And he's like, well, maybe she came back. And she's like, she's not answering the door. I'm worried about my friend. 20 minutes later, after ringing the doorbell and Chris not talking to her, she calls the police.
Okay.
She calls the Frederick police for a welfare check. She's like, my friend is not answering. I'm worried.
I mean, intuition is everything. She knew something was wrong.
Yes. The other person that is trying to reach Shanann is her parents. Her mom is just trying to call and see how things went after Phoenix. I think her mom also knew, obviously, after they got back from their trip to North Carolina, that there were marital strifes going on. And she's just calling her daughter or texting.
Yeah.
And Shanann's not answering again. So Chris is getting bombarded by all of Shanann's friends. There's a list of them.
Big mistake, buddy. People love her.
Yeah. Nicole calls Chris and says, hey, by the way, I went ahead and called the police because I'm worried. And then he freaks out and he's like, why did you call the police? There's no reason to get the police involved. And then he's like, okay, I'm going to leave work now and I'll meet you at the house. And the people at work with Chris that day say that he was on the phone a lot, but he did not seem worried at all. He was very calm. And when people kept asking, you know, is something going on? Why do you keep going? He's like, yeah, my wife's not answering, but I'm sure she's fine. And he's just like brushing it off. And then finally he tells them, he's like, well, I guess I got to go home now because her friends are really worried. And they thought it was odd because if your wife is missing and all of your friends and your family are worried about her, why is the husband not concerned?
Because one, he doesn't have emotions or the right emotions, and two, because he already knows what happened.
He killed them that morning. So Chris arrives at the house and the police are there and he lets them go inside.
Yeah.
He's trying to just play it off. And there's actually a video of this on the documentary on Netflix. You can watch the police arrive. And what's really interesting in that documentary that I'll note here is that Chris, who's usually quiet, is just talking his head off.
Couldn't shut up.
And the neighbor noticed that. And it was interesting because after the police will end up leaving the house, the neighbor grabs the police and says, that man is not acting normal. That is not how he acts. The police don't know him and he seems very polite. He's like showing them around the house. He's like, oh, and this happened and we got into this like argument. She said she was leaving. I don't know where she would be. And he seems just like a normal guy trying to help out. But the neighbor knew this guy would never say more than 2 words. The other thing that the police note is that Shanann's purse, her phone, and her medication that she needed was on the kitchen counter. It did not go anywhere with her. And her car and the car keys and the car seats for the little girls were all there. So it didn't add up with what he was saying she did.
He did not think it through.
The police are like, something happened. And Chris is like, oh my God, I guess so. Something happened. And friends and neighbors all began showing up because, you know, it travels real quick in her circle, and they're offering to help search for her and the girls and start making calls and figure out where she might be. Also, while the police are there, another neighbor pulls them aside and says, hey, I have something on my security camera, and it shows Chris backing his truck into the driveway. He usually kept his truck parked out in the road.
Okay.
And for whatever reason, really early in the morning, he had backed his truck into the driveway, and the neighbors were like, this seems odd. And now his wife and kids are missing.
Yep.
And then also that night, Chris gets on TV for the first time. You can watch this as well. Starts pleading for his family's safe return, saying, you know, whoever took her, I don't know what happened to my wife and my kids, and I want them to come home safe, blah, blah, blah.
That's why I can't believe that Nikki's not involved, because he had to have known it would become something. A wife and children don't just disappear and not become news. So he had to have known that this would get out and become a big thing. And how do you keep a woman in this situation? And you're begging for them to come home when he's supposed to be estranged.
It's very weird. The other thing that's happening at this time is while all of the friends are calling and he's going home, he did talk to Nicole Kessinger several times during the day. He told her his wife was missing, but that they had just gotten in an argument and she had stormed off, and like, she does this all the time and she'll come back, it'll be fine. So he's trying to keep her, I guess, at bay. But we also know Nikki starts thinking it's odd because she goes in and erases all of the text messages between them. She goes into her computer and erases anything that like is connected to Chris Watts.
Well, she shouldn't have done that.
Worried.
If she had nothing to hide other than a shitty affair, she shouldn't have done that.
No. So the next day, we move on to Tuesday, August 14th, and the investigators had the video of Chris back in his truck into the driveway. They show it to him and they're sitting there observing, and they realize the way he's acting while watching the video. I mean, investigators are smart. They're like, something's up with this guy.
He's replaying it or something in his mind.
Or he's just looking nervous.
Okay.
While they're watching the video together. And they interview Chris. They haven't arrested him. He's not at the police station. They're just interviewing him in his home, and he's offering different ideas. He's showing them like what the usual routine is for the kids. At some point, I'm not real sure how this came out, maybe because they looked at his phone, but they found out Nicole Kessinger was involved. They began asking him, did Shanann have a boyfriend? Do you have a girlfriend? And he's like, I never cheated on my wife. I'll never cheat on my wife. And he like, keeps adamantly saying that. And at one point, the investigators are like, who is she? And he does confess that he's talking with, he still is like, I'm not sleeping with her, but her name's Nicole Kessinger.
Oh my God.
And the way he's acting, they know that she might be involved. So at that point, the police are looking at her as a possible accomplice or at least somebody who would know.
Okay.
So they ask him to come to the police station the next day because he's saying he's innocent. He didn't do anything. They're like, we'll come down on Wednesday, August 15th, and we'll give you a polygraph test. They also call Nicole to come in on the same day. Chris is getting a polygraph. I don't believe they put Nicole under a polygraph. He fails miserably. Everything they asked, I believe it was something like, do you know where Shanann and the girls are? Did you do anything to hurt them? Questions like that. He fails them all.
Okay.
So then they begin confronting him and just trying to get him to confess. What the police are able to do is they call in Chris's family, his dad that he looks up to, and his brother. I don't know if they were already in Colorado. I guess they must have come in whenever Shanann was missing. And what they found is that he couldn't lie in front of his dad.
Oh.
And this is when he confesses that he did kill Shanann.
Oh, wow.
But this is his first story. He said that Shanann had killed the kids.
Oh,
I don't know if you remember this part.
Yeah, I do.
He said that she came home late at night and they got into a fight, and he said that he didn't want to be with her anymore and that Shanann had gone crazy, you know, like all of us women do. And she grabbed the kids and was like, you know, if we're not going to be together, it doesn't even make sense when you really think about it. This sounds more like what a man does.
Yep.
Women don't kill their own children usually to take it away from the man.
No.
It doesn't happen very often. I know it has happened.
They leave the men to save the children.
Yes, exactly. And so he says Shanann killed both of the children in front of him. And once again, he did nothing to stop it.
Right.
And then he felt like so beside himself that he just grabbed her and killed her.
Okay.
And he says this in front of his dad, and his dad believes him and his brother and his mom, and they're all defending him. And they're like, oh my God, Chris, I can't believe this happened. They don't like Shanann, remember?
Yeah.
They've never liked her.
Right.
So as soon as he confesses to killing Shanann, he's arrested, which is good.
Yes.
And then I want to go into Nicole. She's being interviewed in another room, and she's telling them that she believed Chris was genuinely separated from Shanann. She had no idea they were still married. And she also says she did not know that Shanann was pregnant, which we already talked about in the last part. She knew.
Yeah.
She's looking at Instagram.
Right.
Like everybody knew. She also confessed that she had visited the Watts home once in mid-July. She acknowledged that she developed feelings for Chris, but she was being very cautious, stating that she wanted to take things slowly. She expressed concern over his missing family the day that it happened on August 13th. She was just saying, I want to help in any way. It's a horrible situation. And she seemed to be cooperating with the police.
Okay.
She turned over her phone, but we also know she had already deleted quite a bit of things from it. They asked her whereabouts on the day of the murders, and she actually refused to provide contact information for anyone who could corroborate her whereabouts. And she just said, I don't want my friends to be dragged into this. And she realized it was about to blow up.
Oh, yeah. Hello. The entire nation knows.
And so that was her first interview. She'll have another one that we'll talk about in a minute.
Okay.
So that brings us to Thursday, August 16th. Chris is arrested. He is confessing like what he did that morning. They're just, retracing his steps, and they find out that he went out to a petroleum oil well site. He tells them the number of it, and the investigators are going out there with, I guess it was his boss or, somebody high up at Anadarko led them out there. And there they recover Shanann's body in a shallow grave that was just dug very sloppily behind the oil towers. And then they find two bodies inside of the oil tanks, which they obviously believe are Bella and Celeste. And we'll talk more in detail about this in a minute. Shanann's family hears this. They're obviously devastated. It's put out to the news that Shanann and the two girls were found, and Chris has already confessed to killing Shanann, and Chris has confessed to being there that morning. So it's just very quickly, okay, we know that he did it.
Yeah.
And this is also when the second interview with Nikki happens, and she finds out that his wife and the two kids are dead at his hand. And so now the police are taking her back in and going like, is there anything else you need to tell us? Because they want to know, is she involved? And at this point, she says, well, I know that their marriage was in trouble, but it's because Shanann was cheating on Chris.
Okay. Is that what he was telling her?
That's allegedly what.
Well, no, he just said that they weren't together anymore.
Yeah, remember when I said when he's yes,
stuck
exactly.
living together, which happens a lot.
Yes.
I had to do it.
Yeah, some people do, and for financial and all of
Yeah.
that. But supposedly she tells the police that Chris told her that the day everything went down, Shanann came home and confessed to him that she was having an affair and that she was going to leave with the kids. She's saying she believes this story, or at least she's reiterating that's what he told her.
If they were already separating, why would it matter if she was having an affair?
The police do say that Nikki expressed, or they thought she seemed to be expressing genuine concern over the girls and Shanann. She said it scared her and she was afraid of Chris.
You can have these types of conversations and think them up, and maybe just the shock of it actually happening is what sobered her up. But I do not think she's as innocent as some people want to believe in this. I believe conversations were had.
Yeah, maybe. She did express to the police that she was worried about media attention and its potential impact on her personal and professional life.
Yeah, and it still is. We do know that.
We know that she went home that night and started researching about Scott Peterson's girlfriend, Amber Frey, because that was another big case that's very similar to this. And she was looking at like what happened to Amber Frey. And one of the other searches was how much money did Amber Frey get for her book?
Oh my God.
So that kind of puts a bad taste in my mouth towards Nikki.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that brings us to Friday, August 17th. Chris is still in jail and they begin autopsies of Shanann, Bella, and Celeste. And this is going to give enough information for prosecutors to build a case very quickly against him and figure out what charges they want to put out.
Mm-hmm.
It's all over the world at this point. Chris is, painted as, well, it's not painted as, he is a killer rather than a grieving father. So they show like him the first night on the 13th crying and saying he wants his, kids and his wife back. And now everybody's like, we know 4 days later that he did this to them.
Yeah.
This one's different than Scott Peterson because we know he did it for sure. Like
right,
Chris Watts absolutely did this.
Yeah, we do.
Shanann's family is all over the news as well, publicly expressing their grief and calling for justice that Chris Watts goes to jail for the rest of his life. There are community vigils held all over in memory of Shanann, Bella, and Celeste. And investigators began pulling all of the digital evidence that they can find to build their case. They've got phone records, internet searches, and GPS of where his car was going. And by Monday, August 20th, so just 1 week after Shanann went missing, Chris would be formally charged. So it happened so fast. So as far as the autopsies for Shanann, it was determined that she died from strangulation manually.
Mm-hmm.
This is due to bruising on the neck and signs of force consistent with throttling by hands.
Okay. Which takes a while.
It's a very personal death.
Mm-hmm.
They also were able to determine she was 15 weeks pregnant with a baby boy. Her family shared that he was to be named Nico. One of the graphic parts and sad things to me is that when they found Shanann's body in this shallow grave, the fetus baby Nico had already partially expelled from her body.
Ugh.
I can't imagine how horrible that was for whoever found her to also see a baby. Little Bella was 4 years old. Her cause of death was determined to be asphyxiation from smothering.
Yeah.
The autopsy revealed that there were injuries inside of her mouth and lips, suggesting she was fighting for breath.
Oh, poor baby.
There were also evidence of defensive wounds indicating that she was struggling against her father. It's believed that Bella likely fought the hardest of the three victims, which made her case particularly heartbreaking for the investigators.
Yeah.
We'll hear more from his confession about what went down.
Okay.
And I don't understand it. This part makes me so sad, like just talking about it and thinking about it. Having kids of our own, it's just unimaginable. Celeste was age 3. They called her Cece, and her cause of death was also determined to be asphyxiation due to smothering. Similar to the findings of Bella, she also had the marks in her mouth and tongue. She did not have any defensive wounds, and she had fewer internal injuries, so they just believe she was younger and was not fighting back. Or it's also very possible she was the first one to be smothered.
Oh.
So she probably didn't see it coming.
Yeah.
Versus Bella watched him
Right.
do this to Cece and knew it was coming for her. So, of course, she fought back. Now, remember, the story he said was that Shanann had strangled the children in front of him. So, with this autopsy, it was very clear that the children's deaths showed no external trauma or strangulation marks, and everything they saw was consistent with smothering.
Like with a pillow.
Yes, that means that his story was not consistent with the evidence.
Right. And like you said, if she was sitting there strangling, that takes a minute. You're not going to step in.
Right.
And
As a
stop
man,
her, grab the other child,
and you're gonna
run out
let
the door.
you're gonna let her do both children. I think the way he put it was that he found it when it was too late. Like she was just in there strangling the kids and he didn't know, or something stupid. That doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
Bella and Celeste's bodies were hidden in the oil tanks, which means that they were in there for a couple of days with crude oil. So that did cause their bodies to decompose significantly. I read somewhere that it was causing their skin to come off. So it did complicate examinations, but they were able to determine conclusively that they did not die by strangulation, and it was definitely asphyxiation. With this, they were able to take this evidence and really build the case against Chris.
Such a fucked up thing to do to your children. And why bury her and put them in there?
Because he couldn't lift her up there.
Oh.
She was too heavy. I'll just say right now, he had a hard time getting his own children inside of these oil tanks. So there's no way Shanann was going to fit.
Okay. And he works with these. He had to have known that.
Yeah, I don't think it was well thought out.
Okay.
So as they're building their case against Chris, the fact that all three victims were killed by methods that required sustained effort, you've got manual strangulation and smothering, that reinforced that this was intentional and not impulsive.
Of course.
Bella's defensive injuries were powerful evidence that Chris continued despite her resistance. Prosecutors were able to argue that this showed calculation and determination rather than a sudden loss of control. And this is important with how you want to charge someone, because there's like first degree and, and all of that. Prosecutors also added a charge of unlawful termination of pregnancy to account for baby Nico.
Okay.
And that would add just additional weight in sentencing. They put their case together and they put it in front of Chris Watts' defense team, and they reviewed the autopsy results and realized that they really had no path to argue in his defense.
Yeah.
They couldn't show it as an accident. They saw nothing that said Shanann had been involved, and there was no evidence that he was defending himself against Shanann or the kids. So with that, they began just working on a plea deal.
Okay.
The only thing that they could do for him was try and save him from the death penalty. So on August 21st, just 8 days after Shanann and the girls went missing, Chris Watts was formally charged with 5 counts of first-degree murder, including 2 for each daughter due to the victims being under 12 in the state of Colorado.
Interesting.
And also being killed by someone who was in a position of trust. So that's something new I didn't realize. So you can get 2 counts of first degree murder if you kill your own child. I already said the 1 count of unlawful termination of a pregnancy. He also got 3 counts of tampering with a deceased human body for moving them after they were dead.
Right. Everything in the book, throw it at him.
Yes, exactly. It did not go to trial because he had already confessed to it, and that was part of the plea deal. And this was put together by the Rusiks. They didn't want this to go to trial. It was already all over the news, and they just wanted it to go to rest. They just wanted this man to go behind bars. But also, for whatever reason, they did not want him to get the death penalty.
Okay.
Maybe because they wanted him to suffer.
Yeah.
I think about that, like, as the parents. Maybe because he was their, like, son-in-law and they still had some love and affection for him, and they'd already lost everybody else and they didn't want him to die. I like to think it's because they wanted him to suffer longer, because we're going to find out he is suffering, which is, I think, a good thing.
Even death penalty stuff, I mean, that doesn't happen instantaneously, and you're constantly reminded of their death penalty, and it's this date, and then it gets moved to this date, and that's even, I would say, a lot more stressful to see it actually go through if you're waiting on it. So maybe that's another reason.
Yeah. It's like, just go lock him away and I can forget about this asshole.
I mean, you at least know that he's never getting out.
Right.
Unless there's an apocalypse.
So it took a while for all of this to go through because it's our legal system. But on November 6th, 2018, Chris did plead guilty to all charges. 13 days later, he was sentenced to 5 life sentences without the possibility of parole.
Yep.
He got 3 consecutive life sentences for the murders, 2 concurrent life sentences for the additional murder count. He also got 48 years for the unlawful termination of a pregnancy.
That's surprising.
I go to abortion, I guess is where my mind goes.
Because it wasn't her choice.
It wasn't her choice. He did it to her inside of her own body.
Right. Along with her. I think we can draw the line there.
And I think part of this was thrown at Scott Peterson too. I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
He also got 36 years for tampering with the bodies. So a total of 84 additional years on top of 3 consecutive life sentences. No parole. Like Chris Watts is never leaving.
Never.
I think that's a good thing.
Yep. Unless he tries to escape. Which it happens.
It happens.
It happens.
Well, let me tell you what he's doing right now. Due to the infamy of the case and safety concerns, Chris Watts was transferred out of Colorado.
Okay.
And he is now living in Dodge Correctional Institution in Waupun, Wisconsin. And he remains in protective custody there. And he's largely isolated from the general prison population.
Interesting.
So with this protective custody, what that means is that he spends 23 hours a day in his cell. He's allowed only 1 hour of recreation in a confined area. He eats alone and he has minimal contact with other inmates. This isolation is meant to protect him from potential attacks by other inmates. We know that crimes against children and pregnant women are considered particularly heinous, even by prison standards. His days are reportedly monotonous and tightly controlled. He has strict times for wake up, meals, and lights out. He's allowed reading material and very limited TV access. He does have a job, I saw. He does some kind of janitorial or laundry type work, but specifics aren't really confirmed. He rarely gets visitors. Most of his family has now distanced themselves, though his mom still speaks out occasionally. In his defense, one of the books I read was written by his family, and I didn't like their take on it. It's a lot of bashing of Shanann and poor baby Chris. Just he was driven to kill her or whatever kind of slant to it, and I didn't appreciate it.
No.
He has allegedly written letters expressing guilt and remorse, although critics argue he still has not taken full accountability. According to accounts from prison guards or fellow inmates, he has no real friendships and he spends most of his time alone. I don't know how he'd make friends if he's in isolation.
I don't think I would expect him to anyway, with the way he grew up and how he was his entire life leading up to this point. He didn't have friends.
Yeah, he's used to being alone. Shockingly, Chris Watts does receive quite a bit of fan mail. We're going to talk more about that in a minute too. And messages from women who claim to be in love with him. I don't know what to say.
The pick-me's of this world do scare me.
These are the worst
because
of the pick-me's.
They would do anything for somebody, including murder.
Yeah.
Probably. So they scare me.
He has not attempted any appeals.
What is he going to do? Knock one
Useless.
life sentence off? Like, there's nothing he can do.
And then he did reportedly confess in 2019. There was a interview with investigators from the Colorado Bureau of Investigation. And this is where we get what I believe is the accurate account of what happened that night. And I am going to go through that in detail.
Okay.
I've been holding off because I think it fits in better after we know that this guy's an asshole. And then I can tell you what those last hours were like. And it's going to be heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Just prepare you guys. This interview lasted about 5 hours. Chris went into very chilling details about the murders. I think maybe he just needed to get it off his chest.
Maybe.
He is very religious now. We'll talk more about that too.
Aren't they all? Everybody finds Jesus in prison.
Something like that.
I see why. You have nothing better to do and you need to save yourself.
And you're afraid of dying and going to hell.
Yeah, you already are in hell and you're like, well, I can't do this for the rest of time. Literally.
So I'm taking this from the book called The Perfect Father, which is the true story of Chris Watts, written by John Latt. And originally Chris Watts had said that what happened the morning of was like a bomb that just suddenly went off in his head and he had not planned it and it was just a reaction. But in this 5-hour interview with the Colorado Bureau of Investigations, that is when he will finally say, and this would be a year after he was convicted.
Okay.
Yeah, he did plan it out. And so here's that account.
Okay.
So at 1:48 a.m., Shanann Watts entered 2825 Saratoga Trail through the front door. She kicked off her flip-flops and left her suitcase at the entrance. Then she went into her office to buy some hair care products, but her credit card was denied. We knew they were having financial problems.
Okay.
She tiptoed upstairs, careful not to wake Bella and Celeste because they were both very light sleepers. Chris was lying in bed in the master bedroom when he heard Shanann come up the stairs. He said that he felt her get into bed. By now, he was certain that Shanann knew about his affair after she'd questioned him Saturday night about the lazy dog charge on their credit card.
Right.
He said she started rubbing her hand on him, just, saying hi, and they ended up having sex.
Which is so fucked up.
Chris said that he thought Shanann was testing him to see if he had been faithful. And so it was the first time they had made love since she'd left for North Carolina. He says that he felt really strange about it and that he didn't know who he even was or who he had become. He said it didn't feel right to have sex with her. After they finished, they went to sleep. Then a couple of hours later, Chris woke up and put on a blue fire-resistant shirt, pants, and a pair of old boots. He went downstairs into the kitchen to prepare his lunch for work. Then he came back to the bedroom and he woke Shanann up, saying that it was time for them to have a talk.
Okay.
He recalled telling her, "I don't feel like this is going to work." And he asked her to cancel a trip that they had scheduled to Aspen. Shanann told him that she knew there was someone else and she started crying. She told him that she was going to leave with Bella and Celeste and he would never see them again. Then, according to Chris, he told her that he didn't love her anymore. And then he just put his hands around her neck and began strangling her. He said he was using all of his strength and he was staring deep into her eyes.
Oh, I was thinking about that.
And he recalls watching her eyes turn bloodshot and tears of mascara running down her face.
Oh my God.
He said it took about 2 to 4 minutes for her to die and that she didn't struggle. She just watched him sadly. The sheer horror she must have felt, staring helplessly at the man she loved and the father of her children as he choked the life out of her.
Wow.
I can't even imagine.
No. She was in utter disbelief that her life had come to this moment.
She didn't even struggle. She was probably just resigned.
Yeah.
What was she going to do? She probably couldn't fight back much. Or you're just in shock that this man, she didn't see it coming. I can say that.
No.
She's just crying and like they just slept together. She probably thought things were going to turn around.
Well, the fact that he woke her up to talk about it, she probably thought that's the extent of what it would be. They would argue, they would separate, but she had to say her piece too.
I know. And he held her for 2 to 4 minutes looking in her eyes.
Oh my God. And that's probably what fixated her at the same time because he's staring into her soul while he's doing it.
While he's draining the life literally out of her.
And it's not like you have a whole lot of time to figure it out. She probably was in that shock, trying to understand how she's in this moment. And even if she would fight back, it may have been too late when the thought popped into her mind. Or maybe she was thinking about her girls. Maybe she was thinking, if I don't fight, he won't hurt them. We can't know. We can't ask her. It's heartbreaking.
So I have more heartbreaking parts. I'm trying not to get really emotional here. But so Bella, she's the 4-year-old. I mentioned they were both light sleepers. And this is all coming from Chris confessing this. So I'm just telling it like the story. So Bella woke up. She heard the commotion. She heard her dad going up and down the stairs. She probably heard her parents talking and it escalating.
Yeah.
She walks into the bedroom and she sees Shanann, her mom, lying on the bed and not moving. And Bella says, "What's wrong with mommy?" And Chris just replies, "Mommy's not feeling well." And then he took the top sheet off the bed and he wrapped Shanann's body in it. He then attempted to pick her up and carry her downstairs, but she was too heavy. He said he dragged Shanann's lifeless body down the stairs and into the garage as his 4-year-old daughter, Bella, trailed behind him. She's watching this. Oh my God. She's watching all of it. He said that she was crying a little bit and she just kept saying, "What's wrong with mommy?" And I answered, "She just doesn't feel good." But he said Bella's a smart girl and she knew what was happening.
Yeah.
It's now 5:17 a.m. and Chris opened the garage door with his remote control. He then went out and backed his Anadarko company truck into the driveway in front of Shanann's white Lexus. His truck would be there for the next 28 minutes. That's what was caught on the surveillance camera from the neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
He put his wife's body in 2 black garbage bags, one over her head and the other over her feet. He then lifted her into the back of the truck and dropped her on the floor behind the driver's seat. So floorboard.
Okay.
Then he went back inside the house and grabbed his lunchbox and water jug and put them in the truck.
Because he was going to go to work after.
I guess. And he also picked up a gas can. So I don't know if he was planning to burn the bodies. That's what I think, why he grabbed that.
Or maybe set the oil on fire.
Oh, yeah, maybe. He could hear Celeste and Bella walking around upstairs. So he went upstairs to get his daughters, and he brought along Cece's pink blanket and her favorite barking dog toy. Then he turned out all the lights and went into the garage with the kids, and he put them on the bench seat in the back with their mom laying dead on the floor, wrapped up in garbage bags. The girls both at this point were asking Chris over and over if mommy was okay, and he kept reassuring them that she would be fine. It's now 5:45 a.m. and Chris backs out of the driveway and closes the garage door with his dead wife and his 2 little girls in the back. He then would take a 40-mile journey out to Survey 319 oil well. As he drove the deserted roads, the girls were in the back, falling asleep in each other's lap, but then when they would wake up, they would start whimpering and crying. Their feet were literally resting on their mom's dead body.
Yeah.
And then Bella kept saying to Chris, "Daddy, it smells."
Okay. It's not too long after you die that you start to...
Well, I think sometimes
let
her
go of
bowels
things. Yeah,
and everything.
That's what I mean.
The baby was probably coming out of her body. It's 6:30 a.m. and he's still driving towards Survey 319. And we know that he makes the first of 3 unanswered calls to Cody Roberts, who was his coworker. And I think he had already told him not to come out there, but I think he was just calling to see if Cody was going to be there. He didn't answer. So then he texted him and he's just like, "Hey, where are you at?" Cody responded that he was getting gas and went back and forth. And he realized that he had some time before Cody was going to show up where he was headed. So he was clearing the path for him to do what he's going to do next. He then called another coworker that could potentially be out there named Chad McNeil and was able to determine that they would not be coming out there either. So he gets to Survey 319 oil well at 6:53 a.m. He unlocked the gate and proceeded through the barbed wire fence. He parked by the well heads of the twin oil tanks. He told Bella and Celeste he would be back soon. He got out, opened the back of the truck, and took out Shanann's body. And at this point, Bella said, "What are you doing to mommy?" He didn't say anything. He dragged his wife's body across the parking lot and out into some scrubland a few yards away and just dumped it there. He walked back to the truck and got in the back with the girls.
Oh no, I don't want you to read this either.
Then as Bella watched in horror, he smothered Celeste. His hand was wrapped inside of her favorite blanket. That's what he used to kill Cece, his little baby girl, 3 years old.
Oh my God.
He said he had to use all the strength to push her against the back seat of the truck to force the life out of her. And after he had finished, he pulled Cece's body out of the truck and left Bella sitting there.
Oh my God.
He calmly carried Celeste across the parking lot to the 20-foot high oil tank on the right and walked up the stairs. At the top, he opened the hatch and slowly lowered Celeste feet first through the 8-inch opening. He dropped her inside, hearing her tiny body make a splash sound as it hit the oil below. After closing the hatch, he walked back to the truck where Bella was waiting.
Oh my God.
And Bella said, "What happened to Cece?" And then she asked, "Is the same thing going to happen to me?" And her father said, "Yes." And he grabbed the same blanket and he came towards her and she began screaming, "Daddy, no, Daddy, no." Oh, unlike her mother and sister, Bella fought desperately for her life. She bit her tongue multiple times before taking her last breath. And Chris would later remember that he felt her head moving back and forth and she was trying to breathe. He then picked up Bella's body and carried her up the stairs of the right tank and across the catwalk to the one on the left. He had to put her body down as he opened the hatch. Bella was too big to fit.
Oh my God.
So he had to force her body through the 8-inch opening and it scraped all of the skin off of her shoulders and back. He said he remembered her making a slightly different sounding splash because there was less oil in that tank. Then he turned his attention to Shanann. He walked over to her body and he started raking away some weeds. He picked up his shovel that he had also, I guess, put in the truck, and he dug a hole 27 inches deep. When he had finished, he pushed her body into the shallow grave. He said when he glanced down, he saw that she had miscarried their son, Nico, but he didn't care. He covered them both with dirt, and then he smoothed over the ground to make it blend in with the rest of the scrub brush around. After he finished burying her, it was 7:40 a.m., and he would send a text to Shanann's iPhone that said, "If you take the kids somewhere, please let me know where they are."
Wow.
That was a lot to read. Like,
it was a lot.
I'm sitting there like walking through it, and I'm like, this is just, how does someone do this to the people closest to them?
We'll never know. I have to assume he didn't think that that was a good enough grave for her and was going to come back.
No, he wasn't. He just wanted her covered up. He was so cold through all of this.
Oh my God.
And then after that, Chris Watts began contacting his Anadarko team to cover his track. Despite the horror of what he had just done, Chris was completely detached at this point from his family, and he says he thinks he just compartmentalized what he had done, and then he just carried on as if it was another morning at work. He made a 2-minute call to Troy to see how far away he and the other members of his crew were. They were about 40 minutes away. Then he took a photograph of the leaking pipes by the wellhead and sent it to his boss. Just business as usual.
Wow.
He even called his boss a few minutes later, Luke Eppel, and he was updating them on his progress at the oil well. And they said he was making small talk, and they didn't have any hint of anything being wrong with Chris. He had just done all of this. Like, sociopath is all this can be. How else do you snap back like that?
Something's been wrong with him for a very long time.
At 8:25 a.m., Chris calls Shanann's phone again and leaves a 23-second voicemail. Then he Googles the Primrose School and calls the main number, and the owner of the school answered, and Chris announced that Bella and Celeste would not be returning to school. He said that he and Shanann were moving out of the area, and then he asked the principal, the owner, whatever, if his daughters had come to school that morning, and she said, nope, they didn't clock in. She told him they would be missed by their teachers, and she asked if he wanted to put them on the waiting list in case they changed their mind and didn't move out. Chris replied, sure, might as well, and hung up.
To act normal.
5 minutes later, Chad McNeil and Melissa Parrish arrive at Survey 319. Chris is still there, and they find him digging a small hole with his shovel where the bypass line was leaking. They said he seemed to be in good humor. He was chatting about his weekend and describing the Rockies game as epic. They remember him saying that word.
Are Rockies games ever
epic?
Jesus.
A few minutes later, Troy McCoy pulled into Survey 319, and he immediately noticed that Chris's truck was parked far away from where the bypass line he was working on was, so he thought that was odd. He also saw that Chris was dressed far worse than usual. He was wearing an old pair of lace-up boots instead of the new Red Wings he was really proud of, I guess, and had been bragging about, so he thought that was odd. And he actually said to him, he's like, what are you doing? Are you slumming it today? And he said Chris was just laughing and they were joking, like normal.
Okay.
And then at 8:28 a.m., Chris goes over to his truck and he calls a realtor named Ann Meadows, and he asked if Shanann had been in touch yet. And Ann replied that Shanann had texted her a couple of days earlier from Arizona, and she'd advised that the Wattses should get loan pre-approval before proceeding. I guess they were trying to get
refinance
this is what it sounds like. And Chris tells her, well, there's no point in that anymore. Me and Shanann are getting divorced. It's just weird. Like, his brain is weird.
He's like, I got to cover all my bases all at once. It's not very smart.
Like, it's just dumb.
Getting ahead of the game. He had stuff to do, and he thought they weren't going to look into him.
I know. They finish up there and the crew moves on to the next place. Those who are working with him just noticed that Chris kept going back and forth to his truck to make calls or to get on the internet. Like, he was obviously distracted with something. And this is when he'll tell them that, like, Shanann's missing or whatever. But this is also odd. At 10:10 a.m., he made half a dozen Google searches for the lyrics of the Metallica song Battery, which is about killing a family.
What?
Yeah. And the lyrics that they have written here is, lunacy has found me, cannot kill the family. It's just weird.
Okay.
He's fucking weird.
Yeah, and maybe that's all it is. He's being reminded of a song of what he did, and he's like, darn it, I can't remember the lyrics.
He's like, I need that song. I want to play it. Like,
because
what?
That's more important. Psychopaths find simple things more important than human lives.
And then he starts getting texts from his mother-in-law, Sandy Rusick, asking, is Shanann okay? And he calls her back and explains that they argued that morning. Shanann had taken the kids to a friend's house, but he didn't know who, just acting normal. Then he Googles the hotel in Aspen husband, and he calls them to cancel their weekend. This is why the cops are like, what is wrong with this guy?
I mean, he's
when they
being
look at all
very
of this.
efficient.
I guess. And then he starts getting the calls from all of Shanann's friends, and Nicole calls and says, I'm at your house. I'm about to call the cops.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I'm busy. I'm at work. Don't call the cops. And then as he's driving back to his house, he calls Nikki Kessinger. He's telling her that Shanann came back from Phoenix because, you know, they had gone on that date and everything, and that everything was moving forward for the divorce and she had accepted it and everything was going to be fine.
Okay.
I don't know what he thought in his head. Like, he thought because they were gone, he was now just a free man.
Yeah.
And Nikki and him could like run off into the sunset. Like, I think that's how his brain was working.
Him canceling everything. That's what I think too, because he's like, well, they're not going to look into what I'm doing right now. They're not going to suspect me.
It's so dumb. Like, I don't understand. So that was his account. I can't imagine being in the room watching him tell that story.
Yeah.
And not wanting to like
Kill
stab him in the throat.
Because it's kind of like he's just like, well, matter of factly, this is what I did.
And that's how he said it. He even like went into detail about what his daughter's last words were. And he said it in such a matter-of-fact way.
Yeah.
Probably the parts I got emotional about, the investigators said it was just horrifying to listen and watch this man, and that he admitted that his daughters were awake when he did that to them. Like, most people wouldn't want to admit that, and he did.
No.
And even after all of that came out, that was in 2019, and that was published, and you could read about it, and I don't think you could see the actual interview. Women are still infatuated with Chris Watts. I don't understand it.
Because they have mental issues too.
Yeah. And they romanticize him. And in November of 2022, People magazine did an article about it. They collected a lot of these, I guess, letters and everything that have been sent to him. And people are sending him like nude pictures.
Well, he's also not some large-bellied, bald, gross guy. You know, it's just he's an attractive younger man.
Yeah, he was 33 years old when he killed Shanann. She was 34. So by November of 22, he was 38. He's still in his prime.
I would say that when I initially saw him, I didn't see the face of a killer. Maybe that's another thing. Like, you don't look at his face and be like,
that's a man that killed.
Oh,
yeah.
He did all that.
He doesn't have the crazy eyes that you sometimes see.
Yeah, he does look crazy to me now, but initially maybe I didn't get, maybe it's because I couldn't place him. Maybe that's what it is. Like, because he's so empty of everything in his brain, like, you can't place him by looking at him.
He has zero personality of any kind.
Yeah. And maybe these girls are just like, I'll make him feel. I don't know.
They think he's handsome. They think he's misunderstood. I guess there's this whole idea of they can fix him. Some of them still believe his first version of events, and that Shanann killed the kids first, and that he's misunderstood and he was, you know, protecting the kids or something, like warped in their head. And there are TikToks, blogs, and even fan art out there for Chris Watts. It's really disturbing.
Yeah.
He receives dozens of letters a week.
Well, at least he's not bored in his cell, I guess.
Well, yeah, he's got nothing else to do, and they're just feeding his ego.
I mean, does he have like 2,000 pen pal relationships?
Probably. They call them the Watts groupies. They're just this dark internet niche of...
See, that's what you got to worry about, because what if they all get together and break him out?
I don't think that they can get together because they'd all be jealous of each other. They all want him for themselves. But yeah, I mean, Manson did it. He got them to do all kinds of crazy stuff.
I'm sure if the only way to have him was to share, they would do it.
Ugh.
I'm sorry.
Some have even proposed marriage to him.
I wish I could see some of these girls.
Yeah, right. Well, you know, there's the whole story about Ted Bundy, and he had like did they get married even?
Well, see, I was about to cover this. It was a different case I was looking into. Something happened, and you'd be surprised. Men in prison, they over time also become very educated. They could speak very eloquently, and they can talk about just anything. And some of these men can woo doctors, you know, like they can get people to fall for them.
It's because they have so much free time and they can just read all these books and become highly educated on any topic, really. Because what else are you doing?
Free college, commit a crime, go to jail.
This phenomenon of being obsessed with criminals, it's not new. It's called hybristophilia, and that is just being attracted to people who commit violent crimes.
Okay.
I already mentioned Ted Bundy. I guess Richard Ramirez, who I believe was
the Night Stalker.
Yes.
If only they knew how badly he smelled and how rotten his mouth was.
Ugh.
But I mean, I understand that one just because he was tall, young, curly hair.
And Ted Bundy was good looking, and Chris Watts is just the newer age version of that.
Exactly.
And these women are all on there. There is one woman, her name is Sherilyn Cadle, and she became a prison pen pal with Chris, but she was doing it for other reasons. She wanted to publish a book about him.
Okay.
And she did publish this book in 2019 called Letters from Christopher, The Tragic Confessions of the Watts Family Murders. She began writing to him under the guise of wanting to understand his mindset, and he wrote her multiple lengthy letters confessing to more than he had said in court.
Okay.
In these letters, he admitted the murders were premeditated, that he had had dark thoughts of doing it for weeks ahead of time, and that he believed he was being influenced by evil forces. He told her that he felt there was a demon inside of him.
It's possible.
Maybe he was possessed.
Maybe.
Some of the other confessions that are in this book, I'm just going to read a few little snippets from it. He said, August 13th was the day I'll always hate myself for. Nothing will ever be the same again. I feel like God gave me an opportunity to repent and I threw it away.
Okay.
Also, in some of the handwritten notes that he sent to Sherilyn, he allegedly described Shanann as a control freak, and he said that Nicole Kessinger was everything his wife was not.
Yeah.
He then kind of turns around and starts blaming Nicole. I don't know if you've heard this. I saw it in the documentary. He started telling a fellow prisoner named Dylan Talman that his mistress was the death of him. And he said that he was misled by his Jezebel mistress, Nicole.
He's probably starting to read Bible passages, and now he's creating this story in his head about her purpose and all of this.
That's so funny because one of the other quotes is, I read scripture daily. I pray every day. I've given my life to God. I'm still haunted, but I ask for forgiveness.
But you're not, because you're not taking full accountability if now you're going to call her the Jezebel and it's her fault and everything.
In fact, exactly a quote from him is, she was a harlot, a Jezebel who led me astray, who spoke sweet words of destruction. But I will let God have his justice with her. I was weak and I let her cloud my morals and my judgment.
But according to both of you, you also lied to her. So she was just...
Yeah. But then he also says things like, when I was with Nikki, I felt like a kid again. I had a freedom I had not had in years. I thought I wanted to start over, to have a new life, but instead I destroyed everything.
Yeah, because you don't get to do that, buddy. You started a family. You could have if you just divorced her. It would have looked a little different, but you would have had your Jezebel.
Yeah, you could have had her, and they probably would have broken up like a month later.
Yeah.
But whatever. He did also admit in one of those letters to Sherilyn that he plotted the murders weeks in advance. He said, I knew what I was going to do. I thought if I took them out of the picture, I could be free. He also said, I have always taken full responsibility for what I did, even though I was misled by a wicked woman.
You didn't, though. The only reason you took responsibility is because Daddy showed up.
It's so interesting that he keeps saying he was misled by her. That does make me wonder if they talked about it.
I do have a feeling that she is more involved towards the end. And that's why I was saying, well, maybe she could have genuinely shown concern or shock or something because she didn't think he would actually go through with it.
Maybe
it's because he was making weird comments and she didn't know what to think about it and was like, yeah,
maybe.
if they were dead, yeah, it would be easier or something like that. And then he actually did it. She's like, oh, he gave me the warning signs and I didn't listen.
Yeah. And we'll talk about her again here in a minute too. He also said, I know that God does not see me as a sinner who killed his family. He sees me as his child. I have confessed my sins. I am forgiven. The hardest thing I have to do is forgive myself. I am not the person who committed those horrible acts. 2 Corinthians 5:17 says, if any man be in Christ, he is a new creature. Old things are passed away. Behold, all things are become new. that's me. I'm a new creature. So he's a born again Christian like every other person in prison.
Isn't the Bible so convenient when you need it to say what you want it to say?
This was just within the last month. I found this from August of 2025. He said, God has separated me from my sin as far as the east is from the west, but forgiveness of self is another matter, and it has taken me years to find my peace, the peace that passes all understanding. But I am finally at peace with myself.
Okay. If you have to live with yourself for the rest of your days in a single room, what other choice do you have but to try and forgive yourself?
Yes.
The point is we don't care.
We don't care.
We don't care that you forgave yourself.
Just go live in your hole in Wisconsin by yourself and read the Bible 1,000 times a day. I don't care.
Honestly, stop interviewing the guy.
That is the truth. We got to stay away from it. I guess we're not helping because we're talking about it.
We're talking about the case, but now that he's there, it doesn't fucking matter. That's where he rots. That's where he stays. Stop interviewing him.
Stop putting him on
what he
pictures.
Thinks now does not matter.
It's true. So he's 41 now. So he still has potentially another 40 years to be around.
And unfortunately, he probably will get some kind of relationship where he does get to have conjugal visits. Ugh. He's going to marry somebody at some point. There is a way of life in prison for these guys.
Yeah.
So don't feel sorry for them in any way, shape, or form. It's just a different way of life. You're just not out here anymore. You create a life in there.
Now, Nicole Kessinger.
I keep thinking of Pussycat Dolls when you say her name. Nicole Scherzinger,
I think's her last name.
Yeah.
Nicole says that she did everything. She cooperated fully with the police and she voluntarily turned over her phone. She felt like Chris was lying to her, and she still claims she had no idea that Shanann was pregnant or that he was still living with her full time.
Yes, she did. But she went there. What
know.
A lie. That's what it gets me. It's like you want to have a little bit of sympathy for her, that maybe she doesn't know the full extent, but she went to their house.
I know.
The pictures are all over the wall. Give me a break.
He told her he was sleeping in the basement. I guess you believe what you want to believe if you're in love with someone, and we can be stupid like that.
And she was helping him find apartments, remember?
And she was looking up wedding dresses.
Give me a break. No.
Yeah, she did some shady shit. She was only 3 years younger. She was 30 years old. She should have been smart enough to figure that out by then. I would hope at 30 I would have caught some of those signs, but
I think she's just not willing to admit how involved she was. And then he killed them. That's it. She didn't know it was really going to go that far, maybe.
This is a quote from her. She said, "If I had any idea, I would have stopped it. I wish I had known more." Many people do believe she was more involved than she's letting on, but there is no evidence to link her to the crime because she didn't physically do it.
Yeah.
And we don't know what kind of conversations they had while lying in bed together. All we have are their phone calls.
Exactly.
And they never talked about it.
Yeah. She's the only one that's going to know. And with the way he talks about her, I feel like, I don't know, maybe she did.
Maybe she planted the seed.
Possibly.
If they just weren't around.
And that happens. He thought the world of her, apparently, in the moment. Just like I just said, a girl like that is going to do anything for him. Maybe he was doing anything for her. So I think she has a bigger place in this than she's wanting to
admit to.
And she's trying to move on or whatever. And she doesn't want anybody talking about her anymore. But unfortunately, just like there are a bunch of women who think his first story, even though it was the lie, is the truth still or whatever.
Delusional.
Many people think that she was physically involved. They're going to go to the grave with that feeling, So no matter what she says, people are always going to think that.
And this is different in my mind. Nicole is different than Amber in the Scott Peterson.
Oh, absolutely.
Because Amber didn't know he had a wife.
No, he completely love bombed her and lied about everything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nikki knew. She was looking at Shanann's Instagram a year before she even hooked up with Chris.
Knew.
She was interested in Chris a year before they hooked up. There's a lot in her internet searches, and
she probably fantasized about him for a really long time, and then he finally gave her attention.
Yeah.
I've seen this play out. I've probably been a part of a relationship like this at one point that doesn't end in this way or isn't involved in this way with family and kids and stuff.
And you get crushes on coworkers. That's normal, but
theirs was an obsession instantaneously.
Probably because she was was already so into him for the last year. She'd already built up this fantasy in her mind of who this guy was.
Yep. And there was a crack and she found that way in, and that's what happened because he wasn't paying attention to her before that.
No, he didn't care at all. She has changed her name and gone into hiding. I don't know how you do that. I guess maybe, I don't think she's witness protection, so I don't know how she went into hiding.
You can change your name and you just disappear. I'm sure she changed her appearance or whatnot.
She has received massive online harassment.
I did see a TikTok that was kind of viral, and it was a video of a girl in a church, and I won't say where, but they were certain it was her.
Well, she is being harassed, and I don't know if I agree with that because we don't know if she was actively involved. We know he was, and he's where he's supposed to be, and now he's saying bad things about her and saying she's the Jezebel. And what if she wasn't? What if she was just a girl that wanted a boy who was married? That's not the first, or last woman that will ever be that way. So I don't want to throw stones at this woman. She's having to live with all of this herself. If she was involved or if she knew more than she said and all of that, she's got to work through that herself.
I would definitely move to a different country. If
I would do something. Yeah. And he's not supporting her anymore. He's out here saying all this slander against her, that she's a Jezebel and a harlot. All these women who are obsessed with him, if they found her, would probably maybe do something crazy. So it's not a good place to be, Nicole Kessinger.
No.
So we don't know where she is, and I hope she wasn't involved, but I can't say definitively one way or the other.
Yep.
I think she knew more than she wants to say she did.
I think so too.
So the Chris Watts case has sparked intense debate and analysis among psychologists, criminologists, and the public. Many wondered, how could someone who looked so normal commit such monstrous acts? Some experts speculate that Watts exhibited characteristics of narcissism or sociopathy, while others suggest a family annihilator profile, which is just someone who murders their family as a way to escape when they feel their life is spiraling. So you can put him in any of those categories. I don't really see narcissist from him.
No, I don't either. He was very submissive.
Yeah, I see sociopath.
Yeah.
Because he had no personality. And yeah, he snapped potentially. And that goes with family annihilator. It goes with John List. When we talked about him, his was more financially based. Chris, I think there was a financial aspect as well.
Was. Him canceling certain things, what actually went through my mind when you said that is he's trying to stop them from charging him too.
Oh, that makes sense.
He kind of needs to hold on to his money right now. And those types of schools, they charge a lot of money per day. It's not cheap to send your kid.
It was $25,000 a year.
Schools. Oh yeah, that's right. So he was probably trying to put a stop to his shit getting charged.
Yeah. And him calling the realtor and all of that. He's probably thinking, oh, now I can sell the house and keep all the profit. I don't have to split it with Shanann. There's some of those things going through his mind. And then he had the money to move on with Nicole, and they could have had those conversations too. Yeah. Because if he divorced her, he would have had to pay child support and alimony and split the cost of the house. And there's a lot more to it. And it seemed in the moment easier to just make them go away.
Yeah.
And that fits with family annihilator.
Right.
And the case also raised a lot of questions about the pressure of maintaining a perfect image on social media.
It wasn't really a pressure for him. It was her. He just had to participate. And I think he didn't want to do that anymore.
No.
He was kind of her little show pony, in a way, because she had this MLM thing and you have to be like that and you have to make these videos, and she had to show the perfect family, and he just didn't want to be involved anymore. But he was also her evidence of that product working.
He was. But they also bring up as a cautionary tale, because we don't know what was going on. We know the neighbors heard them yelling at each other.
That's true.
We saw them, and they were saying, and maybe this is where the narcissist comes from. They said Shanann could have been a victim of emotional manipulation. That doesn't show up very clearly for a lot of people. And she's trying to maintain this perfect image. And she's saying that Chris is this loving partner and supportive, but he could have been really disturbing underneath that.
And I will testify that in these circles, you don't talk about your life being bad in any way.
No.
So even all these close friends that she was always talking to and stuff like that, I would understand being like, oh, I think it's really over, because something kind of concrete was happening between them.
Yeah.
But we don't know if every time he did a video, he's like, this fucking stupid. This
fucking
shit's
hate
not
you,
doing, you know, we
stupid.
don't
Yeah.
know. He could have been doing that.
And we don't know because Shanann's not there to tell us.
Yeah.
And we don't know what the girls saw, like all of that. Some partners appear very loving on the surface, but that can
I
conceal
know.
some deeply disturbing tendencies. And
Yep.
we've probably all experienced that at some point in a relationship, unless you're really, really fortunate. Men can hide their red flags for a long time.
I will also say we're also not taught to look for certain things. And for a really long time, we were also taught not to leave because of them.
True.
He could have had all of these in the very beginning. And I'll go back to she wasn't in the best place in her life when she met him. So they were kind of wounded at the same time.
She was at her lowest
you know,
point. Now, I think it's interesting, and I don't know what Shanann's family saw in their relationship, but her father specifically, he's become an outspoken advocate against domestic violence and the dangers of emotional abuse. So he must believe his daughter was being emotionally abused.
Yeah.
And I don't know, where that came from. And I know I didn't tell my parents when I was going through emotional abuse, but her parents did live with them for almost a year. So they may have seen things.
Yeah. And I will go back again just because I do have experience in the MLM world. It is very difficult to have a supportive partner when you are pursuing something like that. It is almost impossible, honestly, unless they're like you and they do join and they're active in it. If you have a couple that is active in it, sometimes they make it to the top, right?
Right.
But if he was not supportive, it is a very lonely place to be because it takes a lot of grit and a lot of grind and you have to always be on it.
Yeah.
And if she was not receiving support from him and he was telling her this is stupid, you're never going to make it, like this or that, it probably got worse and worse and worse because she would have to do a meeting and there is a lot of travel. You have to go to these conferences and all these things. And he probably had comments about that. It could have been too that she was facing, because I faced it, that when you go out to all these trips, you're being accused of having affairs because you're gone and you're around a lot of people. There's a lot that we do not know, and I can only speak from experience, but it's very difficult to be in that line of work and not have issues.
The other thing that I'm going to bring up, and maybe we're just going to throw all of our trauma dump here. She was, when they got together, she was significantly more attractive than he was. So that always shows insecurity in a relationship. Yeah. And I go back to narcissists, and I've had experience a couple of times with this, and I've had the experience of being with someone who's insecure.
Yeah.
He could have been worried about her traveling. He was already telling Nikki that, and then he got hot or whatever, and then he was able to cheat himself, but he didn't have that opportunity before. And narcissists are amazing at seeming like the best guy in the room.
Oh, yes, they are.
In front of all the friends and the family that are like, he just seems like the best husband. He could have been like waiting on her hand and foot when they were around. And as soon as they left, he's like, fucking do it yourself. And she's not going to tell them because her image of the family is what sold her product. She needed that perfect family. And
yeah. Well, and it's not only that. You go back to the Capricorn. You are the one that's supposed to have it all together. Regardless of it. She had the entire world on her shoulders and she was just trying to get them out of their slump too. So there was probably a lot of tension in that household.
A lot.
There was probably a lot of yelling.
And they're financially struggling.
Yeah.
So you add that on top of all this other stuff and it's just like ripe for it, but nobody saw it. It was hidden very well. And so it seemed to just come out of the blue.
Yeah.
So this case kind of blew up again in 2020 because of the Netflix documentary American Murder, The Family Next Door. This is a hard watch. It was actually the documentary I watched that made me decide I wanted to do this case, even though we said we weren't. But it includes all of real text messages between friends and Shanann, and I believe between Nikki and Chris. It has social media posts, so you can see all of what she was posting. There's the police footage that I mentioned about when they go into the house, and all of these videos. And it's not really a documentary. It's more just like a chronicle of their life.
Right.
It gives you a lot. And I actually, after researching this case, want to watch it again because I think I'm going to look at Chris in a different way.
Yeah. I think I said this last time. I had only seen some of the videos and they were kind of like those little home videos, or maybe they were the ones that were made for social media and they were like trying granola bars or something from her thing. And I could tell just in that one, he's like, oh my God, get me out of this video. Like that is how I felt about him then. But then I stopped looking at anything because you told me you were going to.
Well, now we should
do
both
this.
watch this documentary
Yeah,
again
I will.
and probably see some things about him potentially. I do remember the one of her announcing that she was pregnant with their third child, and I thought he seemed weird.
I'm just going to say right now, ladies, if you have a weird man that you don't think's going to murder anybody, don't put him on social media for announcements, because you will be torn apart if he does not act exactly how the rest of the world expects him to.
It's true.
Jumping for joy and hugging you at the same time and kissing you and not forgetting that you're part of the story.
This is why I struggle with social media.
I know.
Even for our podcast, it's like, I don't want to put a false front out there, but also you don't want to put a raw video where you look like shit. Like, all of us are insecure in a way, and we all want to put our best face forward.
And not everybody's a video person.
No.
So, I don't know if maybe that was a really big struggle for him in this, just because you can't make a non-video person be a video person. It's very uncomfortable. But if he didn't, how would that make her look? And da-da-da-da-da. So I don't know.
This just reminds me, I'm going to go on a tangent here for a second. Have you watched the Ashley Madison documentary?
I have. I feel like I have, but it was a while ago, right?
Yeah, but there is also they were a big social media couple that had they were the ones that were singing Disney songs together in the car, and they were a huge, and then he was found to be on Ashley Madison and cheating on her. And it's the same thing. It's they look like the perfect couple, and yet he was on Ashley Madison, and it's like the Watts look like the perfect couple.
Just today, Nina Dobrev, or maybe it was yesterday, and that'll kind of
Shaun
time.
White, yeah.
Once again, he's cheating on her.
Yep.
And I'm just like, it doesn't matter if you catch the perfect woman. It just does not matter.
It's insecure men.
Yeah.
They need that validation outside of the relationship.
I mean, she is what made him look hot.
It's true.
Look interesting.
But we talked about this, I think it was in the first part of the episode, where men start looking better when they date women.
Yeah, because you're like, wow,
if the life out of you.
If she is they seem to have such a fun relationship, and you're like, wow, Sean's a really down to earth guy to get her. And then you're like, nope, just another guy with a dick in his pants.
Yep. And he rose up because of her, and he got better clothes and hair and all of that. And then he attracts other women, and also
he went from looking like a boy to looking like a man is what he did. Yeah.
And also women who see men with hot women want them.
Yeah.
And men know this. That's why they want to date the hottest girl they can, because then they can attract other hot girls. It's so fucked.
I could say that I should not have been bagged who I've been bagged by.
Right?
In the past,
Amen. Amen. We all, I don't know.
I know. It's always one of those things where you look back and you're like, whoa.
Why did I do that? And I think every woman has that story, no matter where you are on scale of 1 to 10.
Yeah.
We just discount our
self-worth.
Worth. Yeah. To wrap this all up, Chris Watts destroyed a beautiful family.
Yep. Very selfishly.
In a selfish bid for personal freedom. In doing so, he left behind a legacy, not of reinvention or something he could have done if he had divorced her. He could have gone on and redone his life, and she could have kept thriving with Thrive. He could have gone off with Nicole, but instead he left behind unspeakable acts, grief, loss for all of her family and the world, really.
Right.
This is a heartbreaking story. I couldn't even read the details without getting choked up.
Yep.
This was completely unneeded.
As most are.
Men, stop killing your wives and kids. We are fine. Women are always, and I will say almost 100% of the time, better after divorce.
Yes.
We're going to be fine.
Yep.
Just leave us.
Yes.
We're going to be sad. We're going to cry and maybe have, some emotional breakdowns, but we're going to get through it.
And probably say shit like, you're never going to see your kids again. But come on, you literally just told her, I don't love you anymore.
Right.
You're married. You have a house. It all
and
came out of
blue.
nowhere.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not like he is in any place to think clearly or understand emotions, obviously. It's horribly sad, completely senseless. And my heart does, the entire thing, how he looked in her eyes, how he had to force Bella. The whole thing is just absolutely horrible, and he did it with zero emotion.
Exactly. And Bella and Celeste,
no,
they don't get to grow up and become the women that they could have become.
Or even baby Nico.
And she would have been an amazing mother. She already was. And they would have been fine because single mothers kick ass.
Her family was so supportive. She had an entire support. And maybe that was something that he resented. Maybe he didn't want to see her thrive after.
Without him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that could be part of maybe why people would diagnose him as a narcissist.
And I didn't mean to play on words because she worked for Thrive.
But I'm just sitting here because both of us have gone through divorce
Mm-hmm.
and we are raising kids, or I've raised my kids. You're still raising without supportive partners, and we are doing great.
Yeah.
I mean, we have our days.
Right?
But I just think back, like if my ex-husband had made that kind of decision when I wanted to leave or something like, and it's a scary world because you never know as a woman that a man could make that decision.
I know. And I understand for a lot of women that it's still a scary thing after you do get to leave though, because then there are children involved and some are just as scary the entire time you're trying to raise those little kids without them.
Yeah, it's tough.
It's very tough.
And then my other cautionary thing is that if you start dating a man and he tells you that he and his wife are separated, don't believe him.
No.
Because that is like the
And especially if they still live together.
Yeah,
Okay.
let them figure that out and
Because
then date them.
I will tell you, even if he hates her, if they're still living together, he's still trying to fuck her every night. I
true.
guarantee you. So
It's
he
so
is not a
true.
good person to be going after.
No, you need somebody who has moved on and probably gone to therapy.
Therapy is very, very,
Yes.
very important. I will say this, from my experience anyway, it is mostly women who do leave,
Yes.
right?
It's like 80%, I think, of
So
divorces.
if you do find a man who has been divorced and he has not gone through therapy, you need to say no too. It's kind of like, go get checked for STDs first, please, because there's a reason that woman left.
They don't leave good men. Have you seen that on
Sorry.
TikTok? They're like, women don't leave good men. So it's like that man was broken when she left him. Hopefully he's fixed it with therapy. And
I
I
hope
believe
so.
they can be rehabilitated.
I do too. That's my thing. It's like,
Yeah.
you can't sit there and pretend that you don't have some issues or some mama daddy stuff you need to work through
Yeah.
that is affecting your everyday relationships. Go get those sorted out. And then maybe you will have the love of your life.
Yep.
My moral of this story here, because we didn't want to do this in the very first place,
No.
so we didn't want to cover this. And the reason why is because he's becoming the Ted Bundy and all
Yes.
of that. Stop giving him attention. Let's stop giving him attention. Honestly, stop doing videos of him, just all this thing. He's where he needs to be and just forget about this fucking
Just
douchebag.
Don't even look at him.
Don't.
Just only look at Shanann and their beautiful little girls and remember them and grieve them. But yeah, forget that guy.
Just don't do a special in 10 years and go interview him. Like, that's what gets to me. He's not on death row. There's nothing else to update us about.
No, except for he's found God now and he's a new creature or whatever the fuck he said a month ago.
Yeah.
Good for him. Go be a new creature that we don't ever have to hear about again.
Nope. Well, thank you for doing this. This has been on your list for 2.5 years. Just kidding. We said we weren't going to do it,
yeah.
but at some point last year, and I think it was in the beginning
I
of the
think
year.
it was like a year ago I started
You're like,
this.
I think I'm going to cover it. And I was like, oh, okay.
Because I watched that documentary on Netflix. Then I read a couple of the books because there's several. And yeah, I'm going to do it anyway. So here we are. It's a Colorado case. It kind of
It
fits
is.
that
I know.
that we would cover. And it's one that everybody is interested in.
And we live literally right here.
Yeah. Poor little babies. Poor Shanann.
Be careful. Be aware, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know how to wrap this up good right now, except for everything we just said for 30 minutes.
I know. Well,
May he rot forever in Wisconsin and live to be like 95 rotting
and receive 0 cheese.
and have erectile dysfunction and
Cancer of the balls.
exactly. And may he go bald and get really ugly.
And he's going to get depressed and get really fat and no girl's going to care anymore.
Anyways, thank you guys for listening.
Thank you. Please leave a review for us where you like something nice.
Only good things.
Please send in any suggestions or stories for our lab report episodes. Send those to lucidlabpodcast@gmail.com. I will be covering a suggestion from someone next week. And forewarning that it may also be a 2-parter.
It's funny how it just kind of happened that way.
It had to, because you were like, I need more time. And I'm like, this is the only time I can cover this particular story. I needed more time for it.
Mm-hmm.
So fingers crossed I can even get it done still.
In 2 parts.
Yeah, that's my concern.
We'll have our first 3-parter.
I don't want to
No.
do a 3-parter.
No 3-parter.
But
We said it like Harry Potter.
I'm going to a Harry Potter birthday party tomorrow.
Are you?
So are you.
It's Harry Potter themed.
Yeah. Anyway, we're going to a birthday party tomorrow.
It'll be fun. I'm excited.
Alrighty, guys. Have a good week.
And in the meantime,
Stay lucid.
bye.
Bye.